Okie doke. Chapter 18. Minley followed the boy through the maze of streets and alleyways for what seemed like a long time. If it wasn't for the big buffalo that was always in view, Minley would have easily lost him several times. "Hey, come on, it's not too far now," the boy said to her. Minley realized that the boy lived very far from the inner city. The road was no longer stone, but dirt. Even from a distance, she could see that the outer city wall was cracked and broken. "I live over here," the boy said, pointing. And Minley looked down a muddy path that led to a shabby, rickety hut that looked as if the first strong wind would blow it away. The boy brought the buffalo right into the hut, and Minley walked in after. She looked around the small, meager home. The only furnishings Minley could see were two wooden crates and one rough stool. On one side of the hut, a crude metal grate stood in the fireplace with a well-worn pot on it. The other half of the hut was divided into two piles of dry grass. Minley watched as the buffalo went directly to one pile and lay down. The boy gave the buffalo an affectionate slap on the side and dragged the rough wooden stool across the floor to her. "Here, have a seat," he said, as he sprawled onto the other pile of grass. "And tell me why you want to go to this palace so much." "Well, it's not the palace," Minley said as she sat on the stool. "I want to see the king." And she told the buffalo boy the whole story. She saw his face wrinkle with disbelief when she talked about the fish, and he shook his head when she told about the dragon, but he didn't interrupt, not even once. "Oh, I don't know how you're going to go see the king," the boy told her when she finished. "I mean, even if you do go see him, I doubt you'll be able to ask for a borrowed line, especially when you don't even know what a borrowed line is." "But I have to," Minley said. "There must be a way." "Hmm. Well, I always think better after I've eaten," the boy said, and he stood up and opened one of the crates. "Let's have dinner." While he fried the plain bamboo shoots in the pot over the fireplace, Minley looked around the bare room. "Do you live by yourself?" she asked. "Uh-huh," the boy nodded. "My parents both died 4 years ago. Ever since then, it's just been me and the buffalo." He spoke almost carelessly, without anger or sadness, and suddenly Minley thought about her own home, the wood floor that was always swept by Ma, the extra blanket Ba put over her when the wind blew cold, and she felt a strange tightness in her throat. The boy finished cooking, and he pushed the cooked bamboo, like thinly sliced pieces of yellow wood, onto a plate. He only had one plate, so he set it on the stool next to the 3 peaches Minley had left, and both sat cross-legged on the ground. She took out her chopsticks. He only had one pair of those as well, and each picked at and ate with the stool as a table and the single plate between them. "You don't have any aunts or uncles?" Minley asked. "Or other family or friends?" "Well," the boy said. He tossed a peach to the buffalo and then hesitated. "I do have one friend." And Minley was surprised to see his face change unexpectedly. The sharpness of his expression softened, like a flower blossoming, and his small smile was gentle. "Who's your friend?" Minley asked. The story of the Buffalo Boy's friend. Sometimes, during the hot summer days, there's not enough water for my buffalo. So I like to take him out of the city into the surrounding forest to drink in the stream there. One day I brought him to the forest, and he kept pulling and pushing me away from the stream. No matter what I did, he refused to go in my direction. So I finally just let the buffalo lead the way. And he brought me to a part of the forest I had never seen before. A part I don't think anyone from the city has ever seen before. The trees seemed to reach all the way up to the clouds, and the grass felt like a silk blanket. And there was a lake of clear water, so pure and clean it looked as if it were a piece from the sky. But the most beautiful things there were the 7 girls swimming in it. But when the girls saw me and the buffalo come through the trees, they screamed. They jumped out of the water, grabbed their robes, and ran away. They moved so quickly it seemed like they'd all just disappeared into the sky. All except for one. One girl stayed in the water, and she stared at me with her scared eyes. Her hair floated around her in the water, like a midnight halo, and her white face looked like a star in the sky. "Hello?" I said. "Your buffalo?" she said, and her voice was like flute notes in the air. "He's sitting on my clothes." "Oh," I said, and I quickly pushed him over. On the ground, crushed and a little muddy, was a blue silk dress. As I lifted it, the softness made me ashamed of my rough hands. "Here," I said, bringing the dress to the edge of the lake. She looked at me, hesitating. "I won't look," I said, and I placed the dress on the ground and walked a bit away with my back turned. I heard her slip out of the water, and I heard the rustle of the silk as she put on her clothes. "Thank you," she said. "You can turn around now." And when I turned around, a girl was smiling at me. She was my age, but she was prettier than any girl I had ever seen before. Even paintings of princesses were ugly compared to her. "I didn't mean to scare you," I said. "My buffalo was just thirsty." "I guess so," she said, and she laughed like tinkling bells as we watched my big lumbering buffalo make his way to the water. "Oh, I can't believe my sisters just left me like that. And I'm the youngest, too. They're supposed to watch me. But I'm glad they didn't, because now I can talk to you. Tell me about you. Does your buffalo go with you everywhere?" And just like that, we became good friends. She wanted to know everything about me, and she wasn't snobbish or anything. In fact, a lot of the time, she sighed and said she wished she had my freedom. "I have to go before my sisters miss me," she sighed. "I wish I could stay here. Where I live, I'm not allowed to do anything. There's always somebody watching, telling me what to do, and it's kind of lonely." "Well, visit me," I told her. "We can have lots of fun together." "I'll try," she promised. And she kept her promise. Like she said, it was hard for her to get away, but every night, on the full moon, when she visits her grandfather, she stops here. Sometimes she can only stay for a little while. Sometimes she can stay for hours. Whenever I see her, we laugh and laugh enough to last the whole month. She's my best friend, and someday, when we're old enough, I'm going to try to talk her into staying here forever. And that's the story of the Buffalo Boy's friend. "And she should be coming tonight," the Buffalo Boy said, and his smile was bright and broad. "Oh, can I meet her?" Minley said. It was kind of funny how the Buffalo boy's whole manner changed when he talked about his one friend. His vaguely mocking attitude and tough expression washed away, and he lit up like a lantern. She was glad that the boy had someone in his life other than just the buffalo. But the boy looked troubled. "Ah, she's really shy around other people," he said. "And I think she's afraid that if anyone sees her, her family might find out that she stops here instead of going straight to her grandfather's, and they're like really strict with her." "Oh, well, I won't bother her then," Minley said. "Do you want me to leave?" "No, no, no. You can just stay with the buffalo," he said. "She told me last time that this visit would have to be fast, anyway. She was behind on her work, so they're gonna expect her back really quickly." "Work?" Minley asked. "What does she do?" "Oh, well, she weaves and spins thread," the boy said. "That's what she brings to her grandfather when she visits. Thread that she spins. Hey, I know! I'll ask her how you can see the king. She'll know." "How would a weaving girl know about the king?" Minley asked. "Does she live in the inner city?" "No, no, no. She lives far away," the boy said vaguely. "But she knows a lot of things." Minley shrugged. It didn't seem likely to her that a friend of the buffalo boy would know how she could see the king, but she didn't have any ideas of her own, so all she could do was hope. Chapter 19. Minley started awake as she heard the scraping of a door against the dirt. The moonlight streamed in through the window, lighting the bare hut. The boy had given her his pile of grass to sleep on, and he joined the buffalo, using some of its grass as a pillow. But as the buffalo snored loudly, Minley could see the bowl-shaped hollow in the hay was empty. "I wonder where he went," Minley said, and all of a sudden she found herself thinking of Ma and Ba and the dragon, all waiting for her. Suddenly the room seemed to ache with loneliness. Oh, the boy must be meeting his friend, Minley realized, and unable to control her curiosity, she crept to the window to peek. Yes, the friend was there. Minley was startled when she saw her. Even with the buffalo boy blocking most of her view, Minley could see that his friend was beautiful, even more beautiful than he had described her. She seemed to glow like a pearl in the moonlight, and her deep blue silk dress seemed to be the same color as the sky. The bag she held in her graceful hand seemed to be made out of the same silk, but the silver thread embroidered on it made it look as if it were made from a piece of the star-scattered sky. Everything about her seemed finer and more delicate than the average person. There was definitely something unusual about the buffalo boy's friend. Minley watched her laugh, and then listened intently as the buffalo boy spoke. The buffalo boy gestured to the house, and Minley ducked down just out of sight as the friend glanced towards her. "Oh, he must be asking her how I can see the king," Minley thought. And as soon as she dared, Minley peeked out the window. The buffalo boy's friend had her eyes closed towards the sky, as if she was listening to the wind. Then she looked at the buffalo boy and spoke. He nodded, and the girl smiled at what Minley imagined was the buffalo boy's enthusiastic thanks. So Minley sat down on the wooden stool. She knows a lot of things, that's what the buffalo boy had said about his friend, and after seeing her, Minley was ready to believe it. But who is she? Minley asked out loud. And just then the buffalo boy came back inside. "Oh, you're awake," he said, when he saw Minley. As much as he tried, he couldn't hide the leftover smiles and laughter from his visit. His eyes sparkled as he sprawled himself out on the bed of grass. "So, I talked to my friend. She said that the king might be at the Market of Green Abundance tomorrow morning, but you are going to have to find him yourself." "Really?" Minley said. "But how does she know?" The boy shrugged. "You didn't ask?" Minley asked. "Don't you think it's mysterious that you only see her once in a while? And you never visit her, she only visits you? And that she knows things like where the king might be tomorrow? Who is she, really?" "She's my friend," the boy said simply. "That's who she is, and that's enough for me." As Minley looked at the buffalo boy, aglow with happiness against his poor surroundings, she saw it was enough for him. More than enough, as the smile that kept curling up on his face told her. Minley's questions fell from her as she realized there was nothing else to say. You guys want to read one more chapter? Yeah? Okay. One more. Just one. Chapter 20. Ma and Ba walked quietly through the forest. Their steps made a rhythm to the music of forest noises. Crunch, 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 crunch. Ba's arms ached from carrying the goldfish bowl, but he said nothing. "I can carry the goldfish if you are tired," Ma said. Ba opened his mouth to protest when he heard, "Let her, old man. It's her way of saying she's not angry anymore." Ba closed his mouth, looked at the fishbowl, and then at Ma. She stood waiting, clearly ignorant of the fish's words. He handed the bowl to Ma. "Well, if it gets heavy, I can take it back," he said. "We can take turns," Ma said, nodding. Ma was carrying the fish bowl when the night fell and they came back home to the village. The neighbors saw their return and all crowded around as if they were selling good luck. "Did you find Minley?" they asked. "Where is she? Where did you get a goldfish?" Both Ma and Ba shook their heads over and over again. "No," they said, "we didn't find her. We don't know where she is. The goldfish is from the goldfish peddler. We followed his footprints thinking they were Minley's." "And we decided," Ba finally said, "to come back and wait. After she finds Never-Ending Mountain, Minley will come home." "Wait for her," one of the neighbors said. "How can you let your daughter search for Never-Ending Mountain? You're just as lost as she is." "We tried to find her, but now we do not know where to look. So we will wait," Ba said, and then glanced at Ma, who, though her lips tightened at the neighbor's words, she also didn't disagree. "We trust Minley. She'll come home." And then Ma and Ba went into their house, leaving the sea of shaking heads behind them. Ma placed the goldfish bowl on the table and quietly began making dinner. A soft breeze seemed to blow in the moonlight, spilling it through the open window and lighting the bowl like a lantern. Ba looked at Ma cautiously. Her face looked weary, but the gentle wind that rippled the bowl's water seemed to smooth the creases of her face. And when the cloud white rice was finished, Ma took her chopsticks and fed the fish from her bowl. And that's where we stop for today.